In chapter 15, Abram gets promise of a son and descendants and of land. In chapter 16, Abraham has a son, but it's not the one that's promised. In chapter 17, God confirms the promise of Abraham again and gives him the covenant of circumcision. And he also gives a new name to Abram and Sarai. And then at the beginning of chapter 18, angels appear to Abraham and Sarah then and tell them of the promise of a son. And now the promise is also given to Sarah that actually the son is going to be hers and it's going to happen within the coming year. After that promise is made, the angels then go on to a new subject. And that's where we pick up in the middle of chapter 18 in Genesis. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord, by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" The Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham spoke up again. "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I have nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city because of 5 people? If I find 45 there," he said, "I will not destroy it." Once again he spoke to him. "What if only 40 are found there?" He said, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there?" He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." Abraham said, "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there?" He said, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?" He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. This is one of the first. This is the first solemn prayer that's recorded in the Bible, and Abraham knows that God is just, and Abraham does not ask God to spare a city full of wicked people, but he's also compassionate, and neither does he plead for the destruction of wicked people, but he simply comes to God and asks for God for mercy for the sake of the few or of the one. Abraham certainly was pleading for his nephew Lot in this case, and any other righteous people who may have been there. One more chapter from the book of Genesis in the story of Lot. That's chapter number 19. It starts, "The 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. And he said, 'My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning.' 'No,' they answered, 'we will spend the night in the square.' But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, 'Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of our way, they replied. Then they said, This fellow came here as an alien, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we're going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against his people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. Hurry, Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. When he hesitated, the man grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as he had brought them out, one of them said, Flee for your lives. Do not look back, and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But Lot said to him, No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here's a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to him, Very well. I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to a place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land in the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then lie with him, so we can preserve our family line to our father. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and lay with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, Last night I lay with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and lie with him, so we can preserve our family line to our father. So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and lay with him. Again, he was not aware of it when they lay down or when they got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Great ending, isn't it? So this is probably the point where you say, why in the world would you memorize this? And the first time I saw or heard this message all the way through, that's kind of what I thought of. You know, what an uninspirational life. What a horrible ending that we hear for the story of Lot. But there is many things we can learn just from chapter 19 itself. One of those is that Lot has no impact on his neighbors. He lived there for at least 14 years, and although there's no evidence that Lot was overtly sinful himself, every other resident is described as wicked. He was had no impact on them, and you got to wonder for yourselves is, in your relationship with friends and neighbors, who's influencing who? Lot certainly wasn't having an impact on the people that were around him. We can also guess that Lot presumably had a lot to lose. He and Abraham separated because they both had so much stuff they couldn't even stay together. And so I can only assume that much of that wealth was transferred to city wealth, things that he could hold there. And so he had a lot of reasons to stay. When you have a lot, you also have a lot to lose in earthly things. I wonder if that's one of the things that was holding Lot back. We also learned that Lot's message probably wasn't very heartfelt. When Lot goes to his sons-in-law to plead with them to hurry and get out of the city, they don't take him seriously. And yet, when the angels tell him the same thing, of hurry to get out, he's still hesitating. I think people that you come in contact with know when your convictions are generous. If you're not living that life that we're excited about the truth of the gospel, how are other people going to be excited about it? Lot in some way longs for his former life, either for the riches or the comfort. Something causes him to hesitate to leave the city of Sodom. And same way for his wife. That same thing is probably what causes her to look back at the destruction of something that she lost there. So I have to ask myself, am I clinging too tightly to the things of this world? Lot certainly shows no respect to his daughters, offering them to people of the city rather than strangers. I mean, God's a pretty big God. He can take care of himself and of his angels. And yet, Lot offers the bodies of his daughters to the men of the city. So it's